G'day mate, Clinton Anderson here from Down Under Horsemanship. Well, I'm excited to introduce you to our Titan Performance Horse Series. This is something that I'm looking forward to sharing with you. It's going to be a journey that, just to be perfectly honest, I have no idea where it's going to go. I hope it ends up with a success at the end of it, where Titan and I make it to the show pen and Titan reaches his full potential. But reality is we don't know. There's a lot of unknowns, okay? The whole point of this journey that we're on right now is to basically show you how I would train one of my reining horse performance horses. He's not a working cow horse, he's a reining horse, and show people kind of the journey as we move along through the program. At this point, Titan has exactly 64 rides on him. We started him June 1st, okay? And he wasn't ridden for the first 4 days. We did 4 days of groundwork, and then on the 5th day, we started riding him. We tried to average around 6 rides per week. Sometimes we only had 5, other times he had 6 or 7, depending on my travel schedule. Exactly to today's date, I think it's the 19th of August now, he's had exactly 64 rides in the last 2.5 months. So what I'd like to do is kind of film this kind of just like I'm training my horse. Talk to you about what I'm doing, why I'm doing it, how I'm doing it, reward him when he does something good, pressure him when he doesn't do something good. I just want this to be as very real as I possibly can in front of the cameras. We're not just going to show you the good stuff. We're not just going to show you when he behaves himself and then turn the cameras off if he doesn't behave himself, okay? I think people learn the most when they have their best chance of being as real as possible and seeing what it takes to train horses. Some days there's going to be some struggles. Some days it's going to be very easy for them. And I think people need to be able to see that to get a full understanding of what it really takes to train a champion. And that's what we're trying to turn Titan in. He's got the bloodlines to be a champion. He's got the conformation to be it. Let's see if he's got the mind and the athletic ability to do it. So to begin with the 64 rides, we've got now a nice little foundation on Titan, okay? Even though he's 6 months behind all the other 2-year-olds that get started for the futurities, I feel like within probably 6 more weeks to 8 more weeks, as talented as he is, I feel like he'll catch up to all my other 2-year-olds that have been in training since January. One of my certified clinicians, Luke, trained him for the first 20 days of his career. And then after about the 20th ride, I've taken him over and been the only one that's ridden him since then, okay? So I just want to show you kind of what he knows to this point, where we need to take Titan. And our goal is to kind of film him every 60 days on average. So that you can kind of see a progressive, progression through the training process from a colt through to hopefully a high-end performance horse that's very competitive and successful. What is my opinion of Titan so far? I think he's a very talented horse, probably one of the most talented horses I've ever had. So I'm very excited about that. He's got a very good brain on him. He's good-minded, he's good with his ears, he's good with his tail. What do I mean by that? He doesn't switch his tail around a lot, he doesn't pin his ears, he's not crabby, he's not cranky. He's got a very mellow kind of mind. What I like about his mind and his athletic ability, Titan's very athletic. So if you put too much pressure on him, he's not going to stay around. He'll leave town. But he's also kind of, I'll just say it, he's kind of dumb and lazy, which is perfect. I love dumb, lazy, talented horses. See, remember something, a reining horse is a horse that's got to be dictated to. He's got to let you take control of him. It's not like a cutting horse is supposed to cut a cow by himself and you kind of hand that responsibility over to him once he's trained. And a cow horse does a little bit of the same thing, plus you've got to be able to take the reins on a cow horse. With a reining horse, they've got to allow us to control them and dictate everything they do, forwards, backwards, left and right, all the maneuvers. If you get horses, I've had horses in my career that have been very, very intelligent horses, very, very smart. But they'll use some of that smartness sometimes against you. They'll figure out ways to get out of being honest. They'll figure out ways to cut corners. They'll figure out ways to walk the system. So having a horse that's really, really intelligent with a lot of talent can sometimes bite you in the ass. Titan's kind of a little bit on the dumb side. Like he just kind of goes along with life, which is what I call perfect. So if I want to say, hey, how about we go over here? He goes over here. How about we go over here? He goes over here. Reining horses can't be hypersensitive horses, like real hot-blooded bloodlines of quarter horses, because when you start galloping them in circles and running down and doing rollbacks and sliding stops, when you start galloping horses, horses get very forward. They get what you call on the muscle, on the peck, where they want to really go somewhere, okay? Titan's got a very laid-back kind of personality, but at the same time, if you get after him, if I spank on his ass a little bit and kick him in the belly and I get in his shit a little bit, he'll put the surrender flag up real quick and say, okay, I want to be good. What have I got to do to get out of trouble? Which is great. That's what I want. So I really like how I've got that coldness, which is not wanting to run, be spooky, jumpy, but I've also got the athletic ability and talent to at this point, be a reining horse. So there's a big journey through this reining horse process. You know, typically it's a 2-year process to train a performance horse, from January of their 2-year-old year all the way through to almost December of their 3-year-old year, okay? He's gonna have an 18-month process. And again, if he's talented and good at his job, that's gonna be enough time to get him trained, especially with that consistent 6 days a week. He's not gonna be able to be trained in 18 months if I'm only riding him 3 days a week or 4 days a week, or I'm going on tours for 3 weeks straight and then he doesn't get ridden. He's got to have that consistent schooling to help him understand what he's supposed to do, okay? So at every point during this process, there's different cuts during the reining horse process. And the first one is at about 4 months, okay? And he's had a little over 2 months right now, about 2.5 months now. And the first 4 months is all about getting a great foundation. I try to tell people this analogy all the time when it comes to the foundation of a horse and what's important. Would be like if I gave somebody a $2 million house for free. It's fully furnished, landscaping, everything, a $2 million house. If you ask people what's the most valuable part of that house, you would get lots of different answers. You know, you would get the furniture and the fixtures inside the house. You would get the land. You get all kinds of different answers. But in my opinion, the most valuable part of that $2 million house is the concrete foundation, what it sits on. Because it doesn't matter how fancy a house you build, if it's built on a poor foundation and a concrete foundation that cracks and breaks and moves underneath the house, eventually that house is going to get cracks in it, and eventually it's just going to fall down. So the concrete foundation is the most important part of training a horse. That first basically 4 months of a horse's life under saddle, to me, are really, really important that it gets done well, especially the first 6 weeks, 6 to 8 weeks. So Titan is halfway through his foundation training right now, okay? And that's what I want to show to you in this particular part of the series, is what I would consider it to be a great foundation. So when I first get on Titan, I want to work on my lateral flexion. He's got a regular twisted wire snaffle, just kind of like a full twist snaffle. I find that a smooth snaffle, he doesn't quite respect that enough to have just a pure smooth snaffle in his mouth, but a full twist works just fine for him, okay? And I want to work on this lateral flexion when I first get on. Just when I get on him, the first thing I want to do is laterally flex him from side to side. If you follow any of my work, you know that I'm a nut and I'm obsessed about having a horse really light. I just want to be able to pick up with just 2 fingers and have him soften his head and neck. So that first 1 to 2 minutes is just sitting on him, flexing him from side to side, making sure he's soft, he's laterally giving to that bit. Remember, lateral flexion is the key to vertical flexion. You know, people say, Clinton, how do you get your horses so soft vertically? How do you get them to give to that bit? Well, here's the secret. Do lots of this, lots of lateral walk, not just at the standstill, but the walk as well. So when I get on him and I just flex him a little bit like that, it teaches him not to walk off. It teaches him that he's not in a hurry to go anywhere. It kind of like just says, I'm gonna get on and you're gonna get soft. I do the pulling, you do the giving. It's extremely important in that first 4-month foundational period that you teach the horse. I do the pulling, you do the giving. I pull, you give. When I put my leg on, you move away. When I pick up on the rein, you soften to that bit. So I'll kind of just run you through kind of a typical training session at this particular point that I'm working with Titan and kind of show you where we are with the horse, okay? So when I get on him, after I flex him, then I just want to walk him off, and I just spend the first 10 minutes basically just as a warm-up time for him mentally to get engaged with me and physically to get engaged with him. What do I mean by physically? Meaning that he gives to my hands, he gives to my legs, he softens his body around my hands and my legs, okay? So right now I'm just working on what we call our bending exercise, where I slide my hand down the rein and I bend him in a tight circle. What this does is it stretches all the muscles on the outside of his body, and it bends his rib cage on the inside, and it shortens all the inside muscles. So lengthens on the outside, shortens on the inside. Now when I go the other way, it'll be the opposite. He'll bend around my right leg, like I'm just gonna roll my spur right there because he doesn't feel like he's bending his ribs as good as he can. Now he is. And now all the muscles on the outside of his body lengthen. So you'll notice that I'm bending him around, and I want that nose to not quite touch my toe, but I want it quite a way around there, okay? This is almost a little bit like a human getting up and stretching in the morning. It just kind of loosens everything up and also works on getting that horse to soften to that bit. So right here he feels a little heavy on my leg, so I kind of rolled that spur up his belly, okay? I use spurs to encourage a horse to give laterally to my leg. So most of the time I'll just press him with my calf of my leg, my jeans. But if that doesn't work, like right here, and I need to bump him with a spur or roll that spur on his belly, I'll do whatever it takes to get the job done. I'm gonna do it easy as possible, but as firm as necessary, okay? There we go, let him out. So then I'll just spend just a few minutes just kind of walking all around the arena here, very casually, like right there. Like I'm gonna kick him a little harder right there. He just felt like he kind of leaned on that leg. And again, he's a stud horse. Now he's not real studdy, so what do I mean by studdy? Just kind of really bellowing out at other mares and you know, just acting kind of defiant and belligerent, which is what a lot of studs can do because they have that testosterone running through their body all the time, you know, wanting them to kind of push and fight and be the dominant one in the partnership between me and them. You know, he's not too bad, but every once in a while, he'll kind of lean on a leg, push on me, and that's very typical stuff for, you know, a 2-year-old stud. All horses are gonna do that to a point, but the stud horses are gonna be a little bit more, you know, belligerent about it, or a little bit more deliberate about it, okay? So like I said, when I'm training him in front of these cameras, I'm gonna do my very best not to cut anything out, good stuff or bad stuff. I'm just gonna kind of show you what I would typically do. I want this filming to be as genuine and as authentic as I possibly can, so that you guys really have a clear understanding of what it takes to train a performance horse. I think a lot of people are under a false illusion that we just get these horses out every day and, you know, rub on them and whisper in their ear, and the damn things learn how to stop and turn around and change leads by themselves. And because when you see them show, it looks so pretty. Well, there was, you know, hundreds of hours of time and effort and sweat from the horse and from the humans that go into training great horses, whether it's a reining horse, dressage horse, cutting horse, etc. So another little exercise I'll use, not every day, but every other day as a little bit of a warm-up, is my serpentine exercise, okay? So right hand, right leg, left hand, left leg. And I'll just serpentine him all over this arena, just from side to side, okay? Serpentine him all over this arena from side to side. Right hand, right leg, left hand, left leg. And by doing the serpentines all over the arena, it really breaks up any of that stiffness through the horse's body. Remember, lateral flexion is the key to vertical flexion. If you can get a horse soft laterally, they'll be much, much softer vertically. You cannot train a reining horse if it's pulling against your hands. if it's pulling against your, you know, pushing his body against your legs. The horse has got to be very submissive and soft from his nose all the way through to the tip of his tail. His whole body has got to be soft and pliable. I look at these horses' bodies like it's a big piece of Play-Doh. The softer we can get that Play-Doh, and the easier it is to shape that Play-Doh into what we want it to be. Whether it's a cutting horse, reining horse, cow horse, dressage horse, trail horse. But a horse that's really stiff through his body, the 5 body parts, the head and neck, the poll, the shoulders, the rib cage and hips, they're the 5 body parts. When a horse is really stiff through that, you'll be very limited to what you can teach them to do. So once I've done that, then I might work on a little bit of his shoulder control, okay? Well, I'll pick him up and do a little counterbending here. Or some people call it reverse arcing. Okay, and then turn him loose. And I just want to make sure, hey Titan, before I start loping you around, will you move those shoulders around? I got my left leg on here, moving those shoulders from side to side. And I always turn him loose as kind of like his reward. He can carry his head and neck wherever he wants to carry it. See, he's got a very natural flat top line. You see when he jogs, when I let go of the reins, he still keeps that flat top line. That's perfect for a Western horse, especially a reining horse, because it's just real pretty when they lay that neck out real flat. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm not going to bridle him up deeper. Of course I will, and I'll do that and I'll explain why. But anytime I turn him loose, I want him to just keep that head and neck real level and flat. Now, when I say keep it there, I really want him to just put it where it's comfortable, but if it's preferable that he doesn't raise it up, that's even better. Okay? So right here, I feel a little bit of stiffness. So I'm going to bump on that rein just a little bit, kick him in the belly and say, hey, when I pick up on that rein, don't pull against it. There we go. So just kind of moving his shoulders around and making sure that when I put that right leg on, my left hand's opening up the door, my right hand and right leg are blocking the door. Now I turn him loose, pick him up over here, push him over here. Just be able to move those shoulders around wherever I want them to go. So this again is all in that first 4 months of foundation work. He's had 64 rides to get to this point. Good boy. I might let him walk and relax a little bit there. See, I like that. As soon as, see just there, as soon as you relax, he's such a lazy little bastard, okay? As soon as I relax, he just dies in the ass, and I love that. That's how you want a great reining horse. A great reining horse has got to have a lot of natural stop. Like, I've never stopped him before, like taught him to slide just yet, but I can already tell he is going to drag his butt across the ground. Because as soon as I stop riding, like when I say riding, I'm walking along now and I'm riding. And when I stop riding, watch this, when I just relax in the saddle, he just stops. You want those horses with a lot of stop on them, like they just attack the ground, big stopping horses, they crave to hit the ground. You know, as a horse trainer, I'd like to sit here in front of the camera and say, every great horse that I've ever had stop, I taught it to stop like that. The answer is I didn't. They already knew how to do it. The desire was already there. All I did is show them the best way to do it. All I did is show them certain exercises in a position to have your body where you can excel at that sliding stop. But any trainer can train a horse to stop. There's a difference between stopping forward motion and then burying their butt in the ground and attacking the ground and trying to break their hind legs off, that they're stopping that hard. That's something genetically bred into them. It's a desire. It's like a border collie wants to work a sheep. A golden retriever wants to retrieve. You know what I mean? As kids, we had golden retrievers growing up as kids, and we weren't dog trainers, bootlaces, okay? We couldn't train a dog for our life depending on it, but all of our golden retrievers would always grab the groceries when we come in, my mother would come in with the groceries, we'd give them the handles of the plastic bag, and each dog would drag in, would bring in a bag of groceries. Hell, we didn't teach them to do that. They just want to carry shit into the house, Well, that's genetics. That's what great stopping horses have, is those genetics. Okay, and just because they have the genetic, it does not mean they're going to stop. I've had some horses that were bred to stop, their mother could stop, their father could stop, their grandparents could stop, and this damn thing could not stop a lick. Okay, so it's not all genetics is guaranteed a stopping horse, okay?
shown you the basics. Now it's time to put those principles into practice. Get out of the arena and get on the trail. Introducing Fundamentals in Action, On the Trail. This all-new supplement to the popular Fundamental series will show you how to apply the method on the trail and in turn teach you everything you need to know to make the most of your trail riding experience. Plus tips and tricks that will make every trail ride a success and so much more. You get 10 instruction-packed DVDs and 2 hardcover books with over 400 pages of in-depth information, beautifully illustrated and packed with amazing photos that will inspire you to get out and have an adventure. That's over $800 worth of training for only $3.99. Act now. Get up, get out, and get on the trail.
So a big part of my training program in the first, 60 days is getting control of the horse's 5 body parts. The head and neck is number 1, the pole, this junction between his ears, is number 2, shoulders is number 3, rib cage is number 4, and hindquarters is number 5. Because I use the analogy of Play-Doh. What do kids do with Play-Doh? They mash it up, they tear it up, they make shapes out of it. Kids use Play-Doh to fascinate their imagination or curiosity. So kids can shape Play-Doh into whatever their imagination wants it to be. That's how I kind of look at a horse's body. When I've got a horse's body very soft and supple and pliable, I can shape it into a discipline. So when I've got a horse's body soft and supple, okay, I can then shape that into a particular discipline. Reining horse, cutting horse, dressage horse, hunter jumper horse, trail riding horse, etc., roping horse. Now obviously genetics and how a horse is bred plays a big role in how successful a horse is at any discipline. Okay, days are gone where you can just get any horse, any horse out of the barn that has 0 breeding and train it to be a great reining horse or cutting horse or cow horse. Does that make sense? Okay, now sure, it might make a nice enough backyard riding horse, but it's not going to excel at anything if they don't have any bloodlines behind them, as a good rule of thumb. Now, as I say that, I'm sure there's some tree-hugging idiot watching this right now who says, I got a 10-year-old Mustang and it has no breeding and it's just wonderful. I'm sure it is, lady, knock yourself out, okay? But as a good rule of thumb, the horses have to be bred genetically to excel at a certain discipline. Now again, I'll be the first to say no guarantees. I've had some reining horses in my career that were by world champion stallions, out of world champion mares that have won $300,000–400,000 between the sire and the dam. And did these horses make good reining horses? No, some of them didn't. Some of them made barrel racing horses. Some of them just were trail riding horses. Okay, but as a good rule of thumb, you get what you pay for. The better bred horse is and the better genetics has and conformation, the more expensive the yearling is. The generic bred it is, or the less bred it is, cheaper the horse, as a good rule of thumb. Okay, and I've had some horses that were pretty average bred that excelled a lot. I've had other horses that were bred through the roof and just couldn't, get out of the way of their own shadow, kind of a deal. Titan is bred as pretty much as good as it gets by Gunner out of Princess and Diamonds. So he's got a lot to live up to genetically. But whether he does or not, time will tell. This is a story. We don't know where this is going to end up, okay? So another little warm-up exercise I work on in the first 60, 90 days is getting that hindquarters to disengage. When I press him with the calf of my leg, I got my spur down, my toe up, I want his front feet to stay still and I want him to disengage that rear end. So I'll do this at the walk and the trot. Now, a lot of people are frightened to disengage a horse's hindquarters like this because they think that it'll make a horse not use their hindquarters. It actually does the opposite. Horses are a little bit funny, okay? The more you ask them to move the hindquarters, the more they want to engage it. The more you want them to engage their hindquarters, the less they want to engage it. Okay, so I don't find it does any harm at all. In fact, this is the foundation for your lead departure. Right now, it's the foundation of a lead change. I'm working on a lead change right now. I'm teaching him to move that hip laterally. So I want him to pivot on that inside front foot. Now I'm going to pick up the right rein again because last time he was a little stiff on that. That was really soft there. So I'll kick him with that spur or roll that spur on his belly if he doesn't respect the calf of my leg. Like right now, my spur is barely touching him. So I'm always going to ask him with just the back of my, the calf of my leg, my lower boot and jean. But if I don't get that response I'm looking for, well, then I'm going to increase it with that spur. So I want him to basically pivot on his left front foot right now. There we go. And move around. Okay. Another little exercise I'll do is I'll jog him off, slide my hand down, yield his hindquarters. Now I'm going to change legs, bring this rein across his neck a little bit here, and make him bring that front end through. It's kind of like a little bit of a spin, but I'm really got him over bent because I'm working on suppleness. See how sensitive he is? When I sit and relax, he comes back to me. I like that a lot. So I'm going to yield his hindquarters, put my outside rein on, outside leg, and I want him to turn on my foot with his nose on my foot. And this is just a great little exercise to get any of the kinks out of him. When I put that outside leg on, I want him to get real soft to it. I don't want him to grab it. Now right there, I kind of jerked on him a little bit because I felt like he grabbed that bit just a little bit there. Okay? Again, I'm going to pick up on his mouth extremely light. I'm always going to pick up light, never aggressively. But if he grabs that bit and acts pushy or belligerent or disrespectful, I'll jerk on him, I'll pull on his molars, I'll do whatever it takes to get him to get soft. But the secret is, I always ask him very, very gently. Ask him very gently, okay? And finish gently. People think that light hands make a light horse's mouth. That's only half true. Light hands that release quickly when the horse is soft creates a light horse. So once I've done that a few times, then I might just jog him off here and just turn him on my foot anyway without yielding his hindquarters. So I'm not trying to spin him here necessarily. I'm just trying to get that front end to move around and get soft to that outside leg. When I press him with my right leg right now, I just want him to get soft and get off that leg and get off that bit. So I'll do a lot of this more on kind of a Monday when he hasn't been ridden on Sunday, and it kind of gets those kinks out of him. And notice every time I jog him off, I let him carry his head wherever he wants. Okay, it's the release of pressure. Press with that outside leg. This horse he feels like he's going to turn a blur. Okay, he feels like he's going to have a lot of foot speed. But I've also been doing this long enough that I also know that horses go through stages. Okay, there we go. Good boy. See, I love that. Nothing really stirs him up. See how he's just got that kind of relaxed, I call it dumb attitude. I like that, you big dumb bastard. Okay, good boy. He's just relaxed, good-minded. He gives me enough energy to keep me happy, but he doesn't go above and beyond. Because remember, these reining horses, when we start galloping them in their 3-year-old year, if they're not a tad bit on the lazy side, they're gonna get hot on you. NRHA has pretty strict rules on drugging horses. You can't tranquilize them. You can't give them sedatives to get them slowed down. For years, people could do that legally, but you can't anymore. So you're going to see some different bloodlines in the reining horse industry take off. Those real sensitive reining bloodlines are not going to last now because you're not allowed to drug them anymore. They have to run sober, okay? Well, it wasn't ever an issue for me because I wasn't very good at being a chemist anyway, so I always ran them sober anyway, okay? So basically, they can't be so hypersensitive about everything. So I'll spend 5 to 10 minutes just playing with some of those type of ideas, okay? Other little things that I might work on is what we'll call 2-tracking stage 1, okay? Where I'll pick him up and I'll actually ask him to move his whole body. Like right here, he feels a little heavy there. So I thumped him with my leg and said, hey, listen, fatty boom boom, get off that leg. I asked you politely and you leaned on it. So I'm gonna pick up again, watch. Now I'm just barely pressing him with my jeans. Look how light my hands are. When he's light, I am very, very gentle, just like that. But when he gets pushy or heavy, like right here, I thumped him again. Okay, so he's got a little bit of stiffness here on this right side, at least today. So I'm gonna pick up again. Well, what do you know? That time I pressed him, he got off it, Excellent. So notice that time I didn't kick him with that spur. Okay, I just asked him, I'll pick up again. Oh. So he says, hey Clinton, how about you not kick me in the ribs? And I'm like, okay Titan, I'd love not to kick you in the ribs. How about you get off my leg? And we're gonna get along just fine. So again, we could cut that type of stuff out of the filming, but that won't be a real, that won't be genuine. You know, whether you love me or hate me, one thing that all my haters will say is that I am real. I will tell people what the hell is going on. I won't hide things from them. You may not like me, but I will tell you what I think is the truth. Okay, so this 2-track in stage 1, I use it a lot as a suppling technique to get them really broke through their rib cage and body, where his nose is towards my toe, okay? And I'll do that at the jog as well. Now I like it a little bit, but I have to bump him a little bit with my legs to make him go forward, okay? Typically in my method that I teach to, you know, the general horse population, I have a saying, squeeze, cluck, spank, okay? I don't kick them. But with these reining horses, you want them to be a tad bit on the lazy side, where you have to nag them just a little bit now, not too much now, to get them to go forward. See, as, for example, look, I'm just gently bumping him, bump, 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 watch this. As soon as I quit bumping, he just dies in the ass. That's exactly what he needs to do. That's the foundation of my speed control. One day I'm gonna gallop a circle on him in a show pen and sit down and relax, and he's got to read my body language and slow down. Well, it all starts here with this foundation, okay? That's why for my performance horses, I never buy 2-year-olds from any, you know, there's only about two or three trainers in the country that I would actually feel confident to buy a 2-year-old off, but they've started, because it's got a great foundation. I hate starting other people's 2-year-olds or going on with them, because most of them are just so sorry broke, okay? I want my horses from day 1 to get soft, supple, and relaxed and confident. So I don't want to fix problems. It's hard enough to train a reining horse to be a champion as it is, let alone you know, starting with a horse that some idiot's ridden it for 9 months and it's stiff as a board and it's gapping its mouth and, you know, it's pushing on your leg, and now you've got to undo all that bad stuff. Now I'm going to jog him around, just move his hip up. This is real important for a lead departure, okay? When I pick my hand up here, put my left leg back, I'm pushing his hip to my right, okay? Now I'm going to put my right leg back and push his hip to his left. This is the key to a lead departure. This is, believe it or not, watch, I'm on the left lead now, watch this. If he was loping, theoretically, now he's on the right lead. Flying lead change, ready? Flying lead change. I'll do it walking up to the camera. Left lead, left lead, left lead. Change legs, right lead, flying lead change. A little bit too much there. Now I'm gonna put my right leg back, change leads to the left. Now obviously that was exaggerated, you know, he's a 2-year-old and the camera's here, but that's the theory of it, okay? People that come to me with lead change problems, they're really just telling me they have suppleness problems, they have body control problems. I love that there. So I'll also go ahead now and bridle him up a little bit more vertically now. So when I bridle him up, I'm not concerned about where his nose is. A lot of people say, oh my God, Clint, the horse's nose is behind the vertical, run for your life, the whole friggin' world's gonna cave in. I'm worried about how it feels. Now I'm gonna turn him loose. Okay, when I turn him loose, that's his job to carry his head and neck in whatever position is comfortable for him. But when I pick up on the reins, I've gotta have that softness. They've gotta come back to me. Look at it like this, okay? When we're training a horse, we're trying to really train his feet. We're trying to get his feet under control. So how do we get a horse's feet under control? Well, we use our hands and our legs as like a combination. As a good rule of thumb, my reins control from the head and neck. My legs control from the shoulders back, as a good rule of thumb. Reins control head and neck, legs control shoulders back. So my hands and my legs work together as a team, basically. Well, here's the deal. When you've got a horse that's really rude in the face, what do I mean by rude in the face? When you pull on the reins, he throws his head up in the air, he pulls on the bit, he gaps his mouth, he roots his nose forward and out. When the more a horse roots his nose forward, or out, you know, up and out that way, you lose control. I want you to imagine this. Imagine I've got this, the reins go from my hands, the reins go from my hands to the bit, to the mouth, back to his feet. So we've got like a loop going on, like, let me take the slack out a little bit. So we've got a loop going on here, don't we? From my hands to his mouth, back to his feet. Well, the shorter I can keep that distance from my hands to his mouth to his feet, the shorter this distance is, the quicker the signal gets to his feet. But when a horse throws his head up in the air and then especially roots his nose out, look where my reins go. They go from my hands up to his mouth and then all the way back to his feet, like that. Well, when that happens, you lose a lot of communication to your horse's feet. Another way of saying it is this: when the top of the bridle starts getting above this horn of the saddle, you're fixing to start getting into some trouble. What do I mean fixing to get into? Like meaning that he's starting to get up and over the bridle. I want a horse under the bridle, so to speak, not up and over it, because when they get up and over it, you lose control of them. You know, I've been doing this now, you know, over 20 years professionally. I've seen hundreds of horses bolt with people and take off that were out of control. And every time I've seen it, the horse's head has been in the stars running off and the rider's pulling on the reins with no control. I've never once seen a horse bolt and take off with its head down. Never once. And I'm sure somebody watching this is going to say, well, my horse did it in 1962. I'm sure it did, lady. Okay, knock yourself out, okay? But out of all the thousands of people that I've seen with horses, don't you think if it was a common thing that I would have seen quite a bit of it? And I haven't. I've never seen a horse run off soft. I've never seen a horse run off with its head on its chest. I've never seen a horse run off that was giving to the bit. I've seen hundreds of horses bolt, buck, rear, and piss off with their head upside down, their mouth open like a damn alligator, and they're taking off. Seen that so much it's not even funny, but I've never seen one run off soft and relaxed and controlled, okay? So by jogging him around and picking up on the reins, I'm checking that softness of his face. It's not that I want him to necessarily carry his head and neck that bridled up. That's not what I'm after. I'm after the softness that he'll allow me to do it. And then when I turn loose, again, carry his head and neck wherever he wants to keep it. Pick up. Ask him to get soft here. Okay. That time I had to bump him in the belly just a little bit to get him to get soft. There we go. And then turn loose. Pick up again. So by bumping him in the belly, what am I doing? I'm raising his back up. See, when a horse raises their back, their head and neck comes down. When a horse hollows out their back, the horse's head and neck goes up. It's that simple. So again, I spend that first 10 minutes just kind of jogging him around, just kind of tinkering more than anything. I'm just checking for stiffness. I'm checking for parts of his body that aren't soft and supple. Like I picked up on that right rein, he felt pretty good there, okay? I'm gonna pick him up, move him off this right leg again. That feels pretty soft, so I'll turn loose, okay? Pick up again. When he feels soft, turn loose. So those 2 times I had to thump him in the rib, didn't I? To get him to get soft. And now I don't have to. So that tells me that my correction was effective. When you're training horses, here's a dead giveaway that you're ineffective. When you have to keep making the same correction over and over and over and over again, and the horse keeps making the same mistake over and over and over and over again, dead giveaway you're a nagging mother. Dead giveaway you're poking at the horse, annoying him to where he doesn't ever learn right from wrong. So when I picked up and he leant on my right leg, 2 times that I kicked him, I thumped him hard enough that he like, you know what, Clinton, that didn't feel too good. Okay, I want to be a good boy. And I said, great, Titan, I want to be good to you too. We're going to get along just fine? And somebody watching that's going, I can't believe he hit the horse in the belly with a spur. Well, don't horses kick each other in the pasture? Don't horses bite each other in the pasture? You know, when one horse doesn't leave the hay feeder, what's the old broodmare do? She'll turn and bite it. How many times have you ever seen horses bite each other in the pasture where they take hair off each other? How many times do you ever see them bite each other and they actually take skin off each other and they break the skin and it's a little bit bloody? How many times have you ever seen horses kick each other in the pasture where they kick each other so hard that they actually have a hematoma, which is like a bruise under the skin, swelling under the skin of fluid? Okay? I've seen horses kick each other in the pasture and break each other's legs. You know, horses are very big, powerful, strong animals. So I always get amused at these, what I call them tree-hugging idiots, that think that these horses are like these little fragile little balls of porcelain. That if you do anything to them, they're just going to crack and break in half. They're a pretty strong, robust animal as a general rule. So again, I always want to pick up, watch. I'm barely touching him with my jeans here on my right leg. Barely touching him. And he's real soft. I'm going to pick up on my left leg. Barely, look, my spur's not even touching him, but I've got it there. Just the fact that I've got my spur there, most of the time keeps him pretty darn honest, okay? So, after I warm him up for 10 minutes, I'll usually just kind of sit there and just kind of let him get a little air up. Now, in this particular arena here, along this fence here, this arena is 150 feet wide and 300 feet long, okay? So all my performance horses, while they're waiting to get ridden, get tied up on that fence kind of along that way behind that camera you're looking at me with, okay? So horses come in and out that main gate over there. So obviously they get a big magnet for resting along that fence. So when I'm loping around out here, a lot of horses are always leaning to the gate. How I counterbalance that is every time I rest most of my performance horses, okay, I'll bring them over here to this side of the arena. And I've got some water over here, and I usually plug my iPod in or a phone and listen to music over here. But I usually rest my horses a lot over here where this black box is. Because what that does is it counterbalances the horse's desire to want to get back to that fence. Like, watch this. I didn't even have to ask him to stop. He just knows to come over here. So I want him to think it's work over there where your buddies are, and it's rest over here. It's work over there, rest over here. And what that does is it neutralizes your magnets, okay? Horses have magnets when you ride them and work with them. They're always leaning back to the barn, or they're leaning back to the other horses, or they're leaning back to their pasture buddy, okay? Or the hay shed, or the feed bin, or wherever it is. What you've got to do is always kind of neutralize those magnets on the horse, okay? So after I've let him air up for a few minutes, and today's pretty warm, you know, it's the middle of August down here in Texas, so it's pretty hot, okay? So I'll let him air up a little bit, and after 10 minutes, and then I'll go lope some circles on him, okay? So when I'm loping circles, what's my main objective? My main objective is to get him to soften to the bridle vertically and onto my hands, get soft vertically. My next objective is to get him to where I can change directions and break him down and do circles both left and right, and he doesn't get pushy in the face, he doesn't get heavy, and he stays nice and soft, supple, and relaxed, okay? So to pick up the right lead, I'm gonna put my left leg back and press with my left leg. That pushes his hip to my right. I want my horses from about, well, 40 rides onwards, no, maybe a little earlier than that, 35 rides onwards, I want them to pick up the canter collected. I hate horses picking up the lope that throw their head and neck up and jump into the canter. I want them to step up into it with a round back. They step up with their head and neck down, their shoulders are up, their back's round, and they step up into it. So I start that from an early age where I'm going to pick up, get him soft, my left leg's back, pushing his hip to the right. His cue to lope is I'm going to kiss to him, okay? There. He picked up nice and relaxed. He didn't pull on my hands. So I'm just gonna lope circles down this end of the arena. Just makes it a little easier for the filming, okay? There we go. So he has a left side that's better than the right side. Every horse has one side that they're softer on, they circle better. So I usually start out on his worst side, okay? What do I mean by worst side? He's just a little stiffer to the right. He doesn't stay as framed up to the right as what he does to the left. So I always want to use most of my energy that I've got for that day working on the horse's weak points, okay? So as long as he keeps his head and neck roughly about there, every once in a while I'm going to pick up and get him a little softer and turn him loose. But I'm just wanting to make sure that when I pick up, I got 2 fingers on the reins, I'm squeezing with my leg, my outside leg mainly, and he'll get soft to that bridle. So I don't try to go around and around and around, just an aimless circle. So I might lope a circle or 2, and then I'll break down. Come on. Right there, he's just kind of being a little lazy, so I'm going to kick on him there. Okay, I'm going to draw my reins to my hip and make him move his shoulders. I just felt like he was being a little tardy there. When I mean tardy, just not kind of paying attention. So now I'm going to pick up a left lead, push his hip to my left, soften him up in my hands. He's nice and light. I'm going to kiss to him. That's his signal to lope. And at his greenness, he's not going to step straight up into the lope, nor do I need him to. He's going to take a few trot steps. You know, for most of his 2-year-old year, he's going to trot a little bit before he lopes. That's fine with me. I got a whole nother year next year to perfect his lead departure. Now to the left, you can tell he's just got a lot more cadence and how he holds his frame. When I turn him loose more, he holds the shape to his body. He's a little softer to the left. I'm kicking him a little bit here with my outside spur, pushing his hip up underneath him. There we go. So I want to make sure that when I pick up on the reins, there, he honors it. Now, eventually I want to be able to turn loose like that. See how he kept his head and neck down, kind of flat and level? I love that on a big loose rein, but people have got to understand, what are you looking at, you silly bastard, okay? People have got to understand that to get a horse really round, you've got to drive them up into their face like that, and then turn them loose. I'm not jerking his head down, I'm picking up and I'm driving him with my legs. So here, I'm going to pick him up. I'm going to do something he's not expecting. I'm going to move that shoulder over to my left, little counter bend, and then lope back the other way. Because he has his shoulder pushes out to the right. All horses have a body alignment issue where they lean their shoulders one way and their hip the other way. There we go. So I need him to learn to carry himself in a frame that's conducive to him stopping, turning, and being really good. He's not going to do that with his head upside down. Nor does his head need to be on the ground or on his chest, but he does need to be soft and round. From his butt to his nose, he needs to be round. A horse that has their head up in your face is not round, it has a hollow back. And if you don't believe me, just go watch any major competition other than, say, barrel racing, where their heads are upside down most of the time, but they've got a huge tie down on them pulling their head down, okay? But most other events, especially in the Western disciplines, okay, you're not going to see a horse win running around like an Arab with his head in the ceiling, okay? There, move that shoulder, please. So now I'm going to pick up the left lead. Make sure he gets soft. At any point during the lead departure, if he pushes on the bridle or throws his head up, I'm going to, stop him. If he's really rude, I might jerk on him a little bit and back him up and reprimand him. But, I kind of make the punishment fit the crime, so to speak, okay? But I'm not going to let him take the lope at this point in his career without getting soft and rounding his back. Kiss to him a little bit. Let him take his time. I'm not a big fan of just loping endless circles around the arena, okay? Or going around and around and around. When you just lope endless circles, they just kind of tune out to you. See, I love that shape right there. His neck's nice and relaxed. He's bridled up. If he'll do that, eventually I want him to do that by himself all the time, okay? See, you can just feel him want to drag his ass. Like, this thing is going to stop like you wouldn't believe, okay? I have not stopped him yet, but you can just tell he's got stop written all over his face, okay? So his right side is the harder of the two sides, okay? So I want to practice a lot of picking up, soft, turning him loose. Picking up, using my inside leg, bumping that rib around. I'm going to overbend him and turn him loose. I need to let him, he's got to let me soften him as he lopes. Obviously, the faster the horse goes, the more stiffness they usually have. Okay, whatever resistance is in their body comes out worse. So again, it's all about turning him loose. I love that. And then picking him up and saying, get soft, please. Turn loose, get soft, please. There we go. Drive him up into his face, make him round his back. There, I love that. Once I pressed him with my spur just then, I could feel him round his back. That's real nice there. Come here. Get soft, please. There we go. So, especially because it's summer here, and it's pretty hot down here in Texas, I don't lope a lot on any of the 2-year-olds, or any of them for that matter, because it's just, they just run out of air. You know, this kind of year, in the middle of summer, we usually start riding at 4:30 in the morning to try to beat the heat as best we can. And I don't have any front shoes on him. I only got back shoes on him, and these back shoes, he's just got a what we call a 3/4 slide plate on him. It's 3/4 of an inch wide. Typically, most reining horses have 1 inch to 1 1/4 inch slide plate on the toe. He's just got a 3/4 one, which is kind of like a baby training wheel kind of a shoe on him, and I've just got that on him. That's just got on him in the last couple of weeks. So I haven't started really stopping him. I'm not going to stop him and start teaching him how to stop for probably another couple more months. I just want to get him solid at these basic exercises, okay? So typically what I would do now, good boy, is I would head back over there to that black box. I'd let him rest, let him get his air for 5-10 minutes, and then I would come back and work on a few other exercises. So let's let him get his air back, and we'll come back and show you the next part of it, mate. So we've given Titan a little break in and let him get a little bit of air back now. You know, most of these 2-year-olds, it'd be very rare for us to ride them over, say, 45 minutes. And during the 45-minute ride, we're not constantly moving for the whole 45 minutes. You know, we'll ride around a little bit, let them stop, air up for 2 or 3 minutes, you know, ride around again, stop, air up for another 5, 6 minutes, sometimes 10 minutes. You know, obviously with it being hot in the middle of summer here in Texas, in August, you know, you can't do too much at all before they're kind of dripped in sweat and they're pretty hot. So you have to be very conscious of their air. So before I put him away, I like to work on a little bit of backing with him every day. Backing is the foundation of respect. Backing is the foundation of collection. The better a horse backs up under saddle, the better he will be at his stops, his collection, his speed control. Backing is like the foundation of your horse, of respect and collection. A horse that backs up really well usually stops pretty good too. Usually collects really well. A horse that has a crappy backup, they won't push when they stop. They'll kind of skate. So I'll show you a couple of exercises that I'll work with him on getting him to back, okay? So one of the first ones I'll teach him is what I call drive to a stop, where I'll pick up on the horse's mouth. I'll ask him to vertically collect and soften. I'll keep my hands down low, usually kind of on my knees, take my legs off, and then back him up. Okay, there, every time he softens to me, I give my hands back to him. There we go. Then I turn loose. Now I'll pick up, squeeze him up into his face, and you can do this at the trot as well. So drive him up into his face, my hands are low and wide, which helps soften the horse's neck, withers, take my legs off. He feels a little bit crooked, so I'm gonna put my right spur on, and I pushed his hip to my left because he felt a little crooked. See, that's the advantage of having really good body control, is that when I feel him get a little crooked, I've got a way of straightening him back out. Take my legs off. See, I love how he doesn't push into my hands. Watch this. When I drive him up into his face, when I take my legs off, he should not root his nose out. See how he doesn't pull on my hands? My hands are open. A lot of horses, when you stop them, especially if they have a crappy foundation, they'll push that nose out. I want to do the opposite. I want to pick up here and get that softness. Okay? So the other thing I want to do is be able to make sure that I can back my horses in circles. So I've got my right leg back here, pushing his hip to my left. My left leg forward is pushing his shoulders over to my right. So I'm back in a circle. Now I'm going to take my right leg off, put my left leg on up above the girth, and I'm going to make him do a little bit of a turnaround, just like that, a little bit of a spin. Good boy. See, I love that, how he just kind of assumes that low position there. I'm going to pick him up again. My right leg is back near his flank, pushing his hip to my left. My left leg is kind of pressing up by the girth. It's kind of pushing his shoulders this way. I've got him scissored between my legs. Now I'm going to take my right leg off, open up the door, press with my left leg, and just bring him out in a nice soft little turnaround. At his age and training, I'm not trying to spin him fast. I'm just trying to get a nice solid little, you know, step over there. Bang, 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 you know, where he just kind of steps himself around. So this way is easier for him because his hip naturally wants to go to my right anyway. So my left leg's back, my right leg's forward. Okay? Now I'm going to press him with my right leg, take my left leg off, and he just marches himself around there. Just soft and relaxed. Good boy. So this here, I haven't taught him this yet, but he needs it about now really, and I can do it on camera, is up to this point, I always bend his head and his hip goes the opposite direction. Now I want his hip and his nose to learn to back the same direction. So when I back him up, he naturally kind of wants to have his hip go this way. You can kind of even see it right now. I'm not steering him, he's just kind of back and crooked. So I'm going to do the opposite. I'm going to put my right leg back, but now I'm going to keep his nose tipped a little bit to my left. And I'm going to kind of back him. There, he started to kind of back in a bit of an arc. So then I turn him loose. And I want to be able to back him in a circle with him shaped in the same degree of the arc. So my left leg's forward, my right leg's back, pushing that hip, there, and turn loose again. I want as much control of my horses going backwards as what I've got going forwards. My right leg's back. I'm gonna press with my spur a little bit here. He's pushing on my leg. There, he got off it. So there I turn loose. That's why I like these performance horse loop reins here, where I just drop them on his neck, and you know, I don't have to worry about my reins falling off his neck. And I personally, with my performance horses, ride in these loop reins more than McCarty's, because I find with these loop reins just like this, especially these horses get really light. These are really a light piece of rope. It's not a heavy rope. I find with the McCarty's, especially on my horses that are really broke, that those McCarty reins are a tad bit too heavy, and they start kind of moving around a little bit too much, and those horses kind of react to it. You know, if the horse is not real light, it's not that big of a problem by any means. You know, I tell people to ride McCarty reins, but when I get into this level, you got to understand, what I'm showing you guys here and teaching is not the typical Clinton Anderson method, fundamental, intermediate, and advanced. It is a specialized training program for a reining horse. So I'm going to pick up again. Okay, put my right leg back. I'm pressing his hip to my left. Okay. Yeah, now he kind of backed to circle there. Now, obviously, I want to be able to do that both sides. So now I'm going to pick up, put my left leg back. Now, this is going to be a lot easier for him, isn't it? Why? Because his hip already wants to come this way. Okay, all horses have body alignment issues. What do I mean by body alignment? Okay, it's like this. Every horse in the world, I've never had one that didn't do this. Their body always leans a certain direction. Like with him, okay, his shoulders, his hip wants to lean to my right, and his shoulders want to lean to my left. Okay, and it's usually like whatever way their shoulder leans, the hip will lean the opposite way. Or it could be the opposite. Some horses' shoulder will lean to the right and their hip will go to the left. Our job's to get everything centered up so where they're perfectly straight and balanced. Okay, and you never get them like that for very long, but our goal is to always kind of encourage that to where their shoulders aren't leaning a certain direction. There we go. So obviously you can tell he can do a much better circle, but it's tighter this way, isn't it? So I'm not actually going to back him up much that way, because that would make his hip go that way even more. I'm going to do a lot more backing, okay, with his hip the opposite direction. So my right leg's back, my left hand's up in the air a little bit here, just kind of lifting up that shoulder. He's turning too much. I'm going to pull on the reins. You know, that's for him just being a green colt there and getting a little bit lost. Good boy. Love that. So to me, that would be a real good training session right there. He's done everything I wanted him to do. You know, a couple of times I had to thump on his ribs a couple of times and you know, make him wake up a little bit and say, hey, come on, get with the program. He's using the thinking side of his brain. He's nice and calm. He's relaxed. So before I get off him, I'm just going to soften him a little bit here laterally. On him. There we go. Put that foot underneath you. And I'm just going to soften him laterally again before I get off. Again, I'm a nut about softness and collection. When you ride one of the horses that I've trained, it's going to be soft, supple, broke. It's not going to be pulling on your arms. You're going to feel like you have a lot of control of it. And that's why these performance horses take almost 2 years to train, because it's like climbing Mount Everest, one step at a time. So he was better today than yesterday's ride. And you might say, well, how much better? Just a little bit. Tomorrow, I want him to be better than today. And every day, he just gets a little bit better. And that's how you build a champion horse, one day at a time. You know, I tell people this. Do you know why really well-trained horses are expensive? And the reason is because somebody has spent hundreds of hours training them. It doesn't matter whether it's a barrel racing horse, jumping horse, dressage horse, reining horse, cow horse, cutting horse. Great horses take hundreds of hours to train to be really good performance horses, to be true athletes of their sport. So when you buy a horse, you're not really buying the horse, you're buying the hundreds upon hundreds of hours that a trainer has put into that particular horse. Now the good thing is horses, you know, usually live 20, 25, 30, you know, even 35 years and beyond. So we can ride a horse well into their 20s. You know, especially if it's not real hard physical work where they're doing a lot of performance, you know, industry type work. But trail ride, recreational ride, a little bit of team penning, you know, open horse shows. Hell, I've seen lots of horses go into their late 20s and do very successfully, especially with a little bit of maintenance and TLC with their legs and stuff like that, okay? So to me, this would be a great place to get off him. He's calm, he's relaxed. Now, me typically what I would do is I would never get off on the arena like this here, because it's near that gate again. Remember, all those horses come in and out of that gate, and they're all tied up along that fence. So they do a lot of bullshitting with their buddies against that fence. So that herd-bound instinct, horses feel safety in numbers, is real strong. So for me, what I would do is I would wherever I want to get off, I would walk him back over here. There's no greater release to a horse or a reward than actually getting off them. Just saying, we're done for the day. That's the ultimate in reward. So I want him to know that if you'll come over to this side of the arena, especially towards the middle, I'm gonna get off you. And over time, that horse will say, man, I hope Clinton heads over that side of the arena because I'm a little tired and I'd like him to get off. So I'll stop him, flex him again, and then I just go ahead and get off him. And then I'd loosen up my girth. I always like to get off my horses, especially when I'm real happy with them, loosen up that girth. Good boy. Okay, that's a boy. It's kind of hot today, isn't it? Good boy. Rub on him a little bit, and then now I can head out that gate. The worst thing you can do with a horse is get in a habit of riding your horse to the gate and getting off. That's the quickest way to teach a horse to be gate sour, barn sour, is ride to the barn, get off. Ride to the gate, get off. You know, now if I was willing, like there's a gate back there in that corner to get out of the arena. If I go out that gate, I'd have to go all the way around the indoor and back to the barn. Or I could go out that end gate. But if I was willing to go out a different gate every time I came in and out of arena, you don't have to be so aware of where you get off them because you change it up every day. But in this particular case, it's just much more convenient for us to come in and out that one gate. But in doing that, I've got to be conscious. Good boy. I've got to be conscious of where I get off my horses and where I let them get their air and reward them. So what Titan will have now is he'll get a nice bath, and then we'll ice him down for 30 minutes. So I've got these ice boots that he wears. What are you doing? You're a good boy. You're a real good boy. So I hope you enjoy the series we're going to make for you. You know, it's interesting. I don't know how long the series is going to go. I don't even know if Titan is eventually going to have the talent to be a champion horse. But we're going to try to be very genuine and authentic with you. We're going to show you everything that I can possibly do with him on camera. You know, when we film him, if we film him any more than every 60 days, there's usually not enough change in the horse that is, do not push on me, fatty. Okay, see, that's kind of what those studs do a little bit. They'll kind of get up in your face a little bit. So you've got to be a little bit aware. You know, I kind of love on him more than the others because he's kind of got a special part for me, okay? And I kind of love on him a little bit more. But I'm also aware that if I do a little bit too much loving on him, he's going to get a little pushy on me, and I might need to, you know, give him a little hand therapy like that and say, don't lean on me now. Don't lean on me now. See, those studs, they get to pushing on you. They get to manipulating your feet. Again, you know, people say, do you treat a stud any different to a mare or gelding? And overall, I'd say the answer is no. But I will tell you this, studs, they expect you to know what to do. Okay, they expect you to know what to do. You can't keep pecking at a stud and they'll just keep coming back at you. Like right here, like he's doing it right now. Like I've corrected him a couple of times, and he just kind of keeps coming back at me. That's what those studs do. They're just kind of like teenage boys. They just keep pushing on you. So if I feel like I'm not being effective, I'm going to change it up and say, listen, I told you to get that front end away from me. And I whacked on your jaw a couple of times. You didn't take me seriously. So now I'm going to move your front end. Do you want to lean on me again? No? Okay. He was like perfect cue on camera. I gave him, you know, I give him a little bit of love and he's wanting to push on me and see if he can move your feet. Stallions expect you to know the rules to horsemanship. And the number one rule to horsemanship is whoever moves first loses. Now, have you noticed that he's been ignoring me the last 30 seconds? Hasn't been pushing on me. He's not leaning on me because I made an effective correction. While I was talking to the camera, I made a couple of small corrections. But it didn't get me the result I was looking for, which is for him to mind his business and I'll mind my business, and we'll go about our day. So I stepped up the correction. That's where a lot of people that have never trained stallions before, they don't understand. Stallions are very, very pushy as a good rule of thumb. Now I realize there's always a but. You know, some lady's gonna say, but Clinton, I've got this 16-year-old stallion and he's a gentleman and he would never do that. I'm sure there's stallions out there that act like geldings. But for the most part, studs are like teenage boys. They wanna push the limit. They wanna see what you're willing to put up with. They wanna see what you're not. Good boy, proud of you. That's a boy. And now I rub it away. Good boy.